Cheating in any professional sport, especially large championships, has always been an issue. I mean, you look back, there's pretty much any game, any sport, any championship, there's somebody that's out there trying to get the next edge, to level up, to, take that one step past their opponent to win. Competition really brings out some of the worst in people. And for the Pokemon Worlds 2024, that is no different. Previous Worlds and previous tournaments for Pokemon this year alone have proven to have had tons of cheaters, a lot of them caught on camera, some even caught on stream. Well, last night was a very, very interesting dynamic to the Pokemon Worlds 2024, because not only was somebody caught cheating on video, but there was something unprecedented happened in the top 8 finals of the TCG Masters series there. So what we're talking about, first of all, is we're going to talk about what happened with Ian Robb. So this is by far and large the bigger news here. And honestly, no matter which way you look at it, and whether you defend him or you don't defend him, the Pokemon Company International messed up. And I think it's pretty obvious to just about everybody that they messed up. Now, I know there's, some stuff going around about what may or may not have happened, and we'll get into that in a second, but you just gotta say that, there's every year, every Worlds, every regional and international tournament that's run, there's people that are cheating. And it's strange because the Pokemon Company International will not take action against some people, but then take extreme action against others. I mean, this happens every single time. Pokemon is known for, going hardcore one way or not at all the other. So there's not really any in-betweens either. I'm sure there are some in-betweens. They can be reasonable at some points, I'm sure, but you don't hear about them, you don't see them. You really only see the polar opposites of each other, right? So what happened with Ian Robb last night? I was watching this World Tournament because I watch all of them at this point. I love watching people play Pokemon in a competitive, professional sport manner. It's entertaining to me, and I know a lot of you guys do the same thing. But Ian Robb was playing in the top 8. I think it was the first or second game of top 8, actually. And playing against Fernando, and who's a fantastic player, by the way, and it's truly unfortunate that he is stuck in this position, Fernando. And we'll kind of talk about him in a minute as well, but Ian Robb swept the series 2-0, 2 games to none, and honestly, the second game was pretty much more impressive than the first. In that regard, it's just he got all the draws, he got everything he needed, he figured out how to quickly dismantle Fernando's deck, just rapid pace, and it was a lot of fun to watch. Let's be honest, it was a good match, it was good games, and again, nothing against Fernando at all. He played fantastic, obviously made top 8 in Worlds for Pokemon TCG, but Ian Robb did something as soon as he won that definitely irked a lot of people, and it irked Pokemon Company International pretty bad because they vacated his win. They took it away. It wasn't a disqualification. They just gave him the automatic loss. And I'll try to put it on screen, that a video or something of it. But basically, he made an inappropriate gesture with his hands following the win. One of the important things to note here, though, is that he did it after he won the second game to move on to top 4, but before he signed the slip. So I know there's a lot of people talking about, Pokemon, this is their fault because they signed the slip and now they're going against what the final judge decided. That's not necessarily the case. He did the deed before the slip was signed, before he even signed the slip. So the top judge couldn't have signed off on the slip. And I believe there was a conversation that took place before he signed the slip. Of course, just speculation at this point. We haven't heard from Ian at all, and I imagine we will pretty soon hear from Ian. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be next week, who knows. We also haven't heard any official announcement from Pokemon outside of Ian Robb was disqualified, or not disqualified, but given a match loss, and Fernando was moving on. So Ian Robb made this gesture, and the Pokemon Company International, down with the hammer, just smashed him down. And in my opinion, while the act of what Ian Robb did was wrong, I mean, it was inappropriate, let's be honest. There's no way around it. What he did was inappropriate. Should not have done it, especially on stream, but shouldn't have done it at all. And it's weird how Pokemon decided to punish him, because they took away his wins against Fernando and then said Fernando can move on, even though Fernando lost those games fair and square. So very weird dynamic here. And honestly, it sucks for Fernando, because he was put in a spot that he definitely didn't want to be in. But also, you know, who's going to turn that down? Who's going to say, nope, I lost, just go on? Nobody's going to say that, right? So I don't blame him at all. In fact, it's nice that he gets a second chance, but I feel at this point, the Pokemon TCG Worlds 2024 is stained. It will always have an asterisk next to it, especially if Fernando wins. And again, that is not to take away from Fernando at all. Fantastic player. Absolutely deserved the top 8 spot that he got. Honestly, he just had some rough draw and rough luck with the top 8 match against Ian Robb. I truly think that if he had 1 or 2 cards go his way, he could have won those games. He could have, you know, won at least one game. You know, I'm not going to predict the whole series, but you know, he put himself in a spot to where he's definitely one of the top 8 players in the world for the season, and there's nothing to take away from that. You know, we're not trying to take anything away from him for being a top competitor, but it's weird because Fernando ends up going into the semifinals, top 4, plays Jesse Parker, and actually beats the undefeated Jesse Parker 2-1 to move on to the finals, which is going to be played today. And it's just, I can't help but think, but if Fernando wins, this World Championship will always have an asterisk next to it. It'll always have, you know, that stain on it. It's not... We just witnessed somebody who lost fair and square in a tournament, in a game, 2-0, ended up still somehow moving on, and that is now in the World Finals. So it is a weird dynamic, but it's just bad on the Pokemon Company International. Honestly, it should have been handled differently, in my opinion. And take that with a grain of salt, because my opinion is my own. It has no weight or value to anybody else outside of me, right? But I would have preferred in that scenario, I feel like what the right course of action would have been is vacate the next round with Rob. So Rob going into top 4 then gets vacated, and Jesse Parker just gets the automatic win into the championships. And, you know, there's going to be people that are arguing for or against it. You know, why do you want Jesse in over Fernando? And it's not that I want Jesse in over Fernando. Not at all. They're great. All of them are great competitors. They had a great match themselves. But it's just, you don't have the stain on the championship at that point, and you're not giving somebody who lost fair and square a really unprecedented and weird second chance at becoming a champion. I don't think it's right. I don't think that was the right course of action. I don't think that was the right call. Now, there are rumors, speculation, people are putting out there that there was a discussion that happened before they signed the slip, and that they pretty much told Ian that he could either take some kind of severe penalty or he could just forfeit the round, even though he'd already won 2 games. They basically forced his hand. I'm not gonna say they made him sign the paper and do it, but from what my understanding is they actually gave him a penalty that would have DQ'd him or, you know, disqualified him from contention further anyway. And in, you know, the kindness of his heart and spirit, he allowed Fernando to move on. But the fact that Pokemon even gave that as an option, I think, is just a bad call on their part. And then you follow all of this up with the fact that throughout the weekend, I believe it was even in day 2, somebody who had been caught cheating on camera made it to day 2. I don't know if they made it top 32 or not. I heard that they may have made top 32, but I have not confirmed that myself. But basically, we had somebody on 4K live on somebody's, I believe it was a live stream or some kind of recording. Guy is shuffling his deck, his discard pile. He's looking through his discard pile, palms a card, and drops his hand down below the table. And then you see him in the next sequence bring that card up to his hand, and all of a sudden he's got a card from his discard pile into his hand. Caught plain as day on camera that he was cheating, and Pokemon did not do a thing. Crickets left and right. And that's what makes this scenario so much worse, is that you have somebody who it was brought to the attention of the judges and Pokemon during the tournament, long before the Ian Robb situation, and they have ignored it and not done anything, at least to my knowledge at this point, have not done anything about it. But then you've got Ian Robb, who just makes an inappropriate gesture at that, and in the top 8, no less, and gets disqualified, and you put somebody who lost up the next round, and now all of a sudden they're in the championships, the finals. It's just such a weird dynamic. I think it's a bad look for Pokemon, honestly. I'm not rooting for or against anybody at this point. I just want some good matches. That's all I really want. But if Fernando wins, it will forever be the stained championship. And there will always be an asterisk next to it. And again, not because he doesn't deserve to win, but because of all the circumstances behind it led to this point where it's going to be a false championship. And I know, like I said, I know there's people that are going to think differently. They're going to argue against it, and that's fine. You guys make your comments down below what you think should have happened or what you think of the situation. We can get some discussion going. But it's just a really weird scenario that plays out. And like I said, cheating happens in every major event, especially with Pokemon trading cards. It happens all the time. But this way and how this happened, especially in the top 8 of the World Championships, should not have gone down this way. It just absolutely should not have gone down this way. But again, that's all my opinion. Thank you guys for listening. Let me know what you think down below. But that's all we have time for today. We'll see you guys in the next one.